so this doesn't really feel any better. In fact, I would argue right now it's a little bit worse. The pipeline design pattern allows us to be able to connect things in programs to be able to process data from one stage to another. And in a previous video I made, which you can find right up here, I was explaining some of the basics of the pipeline design pattern in C#. Now, one of the things that we see with the pipeline design pattern is that we're responsible for connecting these pieces together, and that can look a little bit unwieldy depending on how many stages you have. Now, when I made that video, I was promising that I was going to follow up with a better way to connect these stages, so I wanted to put this video together to walk you through some ideas behind that. But I did run into a problem, and I still wanted to make this video for you because I think there's some interesting insights. So I want you to stay tuned because we're going to see how complex this gets when you really want to start making your pipelines be configured more automatically. Before I jump into the code, just a quick reminder to check that pinned comment for a link to my newsletter and the courses that I'm working on. Alright, let's jump over to Visual Studio. If you haven't watched the last video, where we ended up was I was explaining that we had several different pipeline stages, and if we wanted to, we don't have to, but if we wanted to, we could use something like the task object syntax that we have to be able to run a task and then do continuations with it. But we saw this example without the tasks as well. We're just responsible for taking the input, putting that into a stage, and then taking the output of that stage to feed into the next input. That's essentially what this is doing, just with tasks. So knowing that, what the goal was that we wanted to be able to come up with a more clean or simple way to go build that. So for me, that was going to mean moving towards dependency injection. I love using dependency injection to be able to simplify object creation. And we can use things like factory patterns as well, and sometimes combining factory patterns with dependency injection can really clean things up. It kind of moves all the complexities into your dependency injection and factory class creation. So as we walk through this, in the start, it's not going to look much more clean. And I apologize for that, but I need you to stick with me on this and we can see how we can evolve it. Okay, so the code that I have on screen to start with is going to be using autofact to configure dependency injection. And you can do this exact same type of thing with the built-in .NET framework, dependency injection framework. I'm just using autofact because I'm more comfortable with it. So all of the code that we see highlighted right here from line 3 to 10 is creating what's called a container builder in autofact, much like a service collection. What we're doing from there is going to register the different things that we want, and that registration happens in this module. And you'll see that I have the different pipeline stages that we want to have configured, much like the example from the previous video. So we have a source for the pipeline, that's where we're going to get the data from. Then we have a bunch of stages in the pipeline, and then a sink, which is going to be the end of the pipeline. And then I have this other class that is the pipeline itself. So we're going to see what that looks like, but I just wanted to show you how the dependency injection is set up. Now, because these pipeline stages don't have any state, I am going with single instance on all of them. They're technically like a singleton, but that's because they don't have state. If you have state in your pipeline stages, you definitely don't want to do this kind of thing because you might accidentally share a pipeline stage. So let me go ahead and collapse this module. What we end up with at the beginning of our program after getting our dependency injection set up is this spot where we can go ask for the pipeline from our dependency injection framework, and we can simply call execute on it. Right now, based on what you're seeing, I'm hiding all of the complexity. Every time we want to go use this pipeline, we can simply just resolve the instance of it. And because there's no state, we can technically just reuse this pipeline instance whenever we want to go run one. But as you can see, even with the dependency injection setup, there's a lot more code. And we're not even done yet because we have all of the stages still. These are going to be very similar to what we saw before. So the pipeline sync is really just where we write to the console. The source was asking for that console input, and then these different pipeline steps were really just the different things that we had where we were cleaning the text, counting things, and then writing a summary. These were just unique to the scenario that we were looking at in the previous video. On top of that, I went a little bit further and I made the different pipeline stages have a different unique return type. So I'm using records to have DTOs, data transfer objects, for each of those stages. Did I need to do that? No, but this was one step that I was thinking about in terms of trying to make each stage look a little bit more unique. Instead of just having a stage that can return a string or take in a string, I wanted to start seeing if I could shape the stages a little bit more. If they have their own unique input and own unique output, maybe I can get a little bit more information about how to piece these things together. That is, if I have something that can only take in a specific input, that means the output from something else must be wired up to that if they have the same output to input. So that's where my train of thought was going. However, when we go look at how we create this pipeline, that's going to be this class right here. So using dependency injection, I can take in the source, the different steps, and then the sink. From there, what I'm able to do is just chain the pipeline stages together. And if you've watched the previous video, this is basically the exact same thing, but it's even more code. And I was getting excited when I was putting this together because I started using dependency injection, and then when I started to piece it all together, I went, wait a second, this isn't really helping at all. It's just making more work. So why would we ever want to go do this? We still end up with this same problem of getting the output of one part, putting it into the next part, taking the output of that, putting it into the next part, so on and so forth. So this doesn't really feel any better. In fact, I would argue right now, it's a little bit worse. Okay, so I didn't want to let everyone down. And when I started looking at this, I said, okay, hold on. There's got to be something more I can do with this because I didn't make it any better. I added overhead for dependency injection. What are we going to do? And I think that the problem comes down to our pipeline class. I'm trying to package it all up into one spot, and I was hoping that it was going to fit together a little bit more nicely. But it turns out that even with dependency injection, I still have to try and figure out how to connect these steps. That's where the issue is. All of the manual work that we have is really the step connection. That's where it sucks, and dependency injection isn't really helping with that. So I figured, okay, maybe the example I picked is not a good candidate for being able to do this. If we come up with something else, maybe I can illustrate some of these steps being connected in a more obvious way. So I put together another example that we're going to look at. It's going to make the step connection a little bit more clean and easy to work with. But we're going to see another catch that we can iterate on. So let's go back to the code and check that out. So as I was saying, passing in all of these manually for the different steps that we have. And if you think about extending your pipeline and adding more things in, it means that you got to come back here, add a new dependency. It means that you're going to have to go wire them up in here again. You have to keep touching your pipeline to add another stage in. And I really wanted to get rid of this. So let's scroll down a little bit lower in this code. Now, this is where I started to go a little bit overkill. I figured maybe if I put some interfaces together and I pull out some APIs for these different stages, it'll start to clean things up. And it kind of did. So let me explain what I did here in a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go in extreme detail on each of these, but I started thinking about pipeline stages at the sink, at the source, and at the individual stage level in between is having some common interface and then also some unique API for each part. So for example, the source of a pipeline doesn't have any input to it, but it can only output things. And the sink is the exact opposite, right? It can only take in an input, but there's no output. The intermediate stages that fit in between, if I scroll down to that here, you can see that that's going to have an input and an output, right? So when we execute a pipeline stage, it needs something in and something out. And you can see that I'm starting to think about using these type parameters in order to try and rationalize how can I connect one stage to another. So the problem still existed though, and it's going to come back to these type parameters when we start to reflect on where the challenges are. But let's scroll down a little bit lower and see what we got. In this new example, I'm using a source here and a sink. And what's interesting about these now is they implement the interface. You can see that the start method on the source is just spitting something back out. And the sink is just going to be able to take something in with no return value, just like the interfaces suggest. Now, I wasn't able to get a fully automatic pipeline created, but this is a little bit closer. And if we think about the dependency injection that we have, this is where the interfaces are going to make this a little bit more streamlined. So if I was able to go register this source and this sink on the dependency container, what I'm able to do from there is when this pipeline is also registered there, it will go try to automatically resolve the source that meets this interface, the sink that meets this interface, and then any intermediate stages in the middle. Now what's cool about this is if we look at the execute method, we have the source starting it off, right? So when we run the pipeline, we're going to start with the source, of course. Then we have stages. And what's cool about the stages is that I don't have to manually connect them. we just take them in the order that they come in, and that way when we go to run a stage, we can go past the output of that into the next one. And finally, we were able to put that into the sink. If we compare that to the code that we saw above, this method here, or at least to go build a pipeline, we don't have to manually wire up the different stages that we want. We start with a source, we end with a sink, and then we connect all of the stages automatically because we're just using a loop like this. Okay, so this is a little bit better in terms of our pipeline creation because we don't have to manually connect up the steps. But there's a couple gotchas with this pattern. The first issue is that if we have multiple pipelines that we're trying to configure, the way that this works, especially if we're just dealing with really generic types as inputs and outputs, that's going to make it really tricky to go configure this properly. So if you had a pipeline source that produced a string, I mean, if you had more than one of those, how are you going to make sure that you're configuring the right one when you go to do dependency injection like this? The same thing with the sink, and the same thing with all the steps in the middle, right? If they take in strings and they output strings, how are you going to know if you have some stages for this pipeline and some stages for that pipeline? Suddenly the magic of dependency injection helps in terms of connecting things, but also complicates it because it's doing it magically for you and you don't have a lot of control. Now, I've already raised a couple of problems with this approach, but one that I wanted to go back and solve in this video was the idea about the stages in particular for a given pipeline. What we're not going to address in this video is if you have multiple different pipelines and you want to use really generic inputs and outputs, like strings, for example. This one is not going to take care of how to make sure that those don't collide with each other. This assumes that you're going to have one pipeline that's created, or that you have very specific inputs and outputs, like a dedicated input to your pipeline and a dedicated output. There's still one problem with this, though, that stands out to me, and that's the different stages that you have and the order that you need to work with those stages. So for example, if I had a 3-stage pipeline, so the source and the sink, and then 3 stages in the middle, using dependency injection, how do I make sure that those stages are in the right order? Let's go check out one more revision of this code to try and solve this problem. Okay, so one more change that I made to here was creating yet another interface to extend what we already had. And there's no reason that I had to extend it. I could have just modified the base one, but I wanted to show you this evolving. So all that I've done is I've added a priority onto the different pipeline stages. What's interesting from here is that what I can do is make a pipeline builder, so I have a new factory type of pattern that I'm using. I take in the source, the sink, and each of the stages, and as long as the stages implement this new interface that has a priority, you'll notice that here, when I go to build that pipeline, right, this is not executing the pipeline, it's just building it. When I go to build it, I'm able to order the stages by the priority they have, and then I'm able to put that to an array. That way, I do this one time when I build the pipeline, and then from there, that pipeline is configured to be in the right order for the stages that it has. And if you recall, if I jump back to that pipeline up here, if we go look at it, if we look at the execute method, we can see that these stages, it still has no idea about the priority, but this is going to assume that they come in order now. But again, if we look at the final product of this, when we go to build it up, and then when we go to run it, this is a little bit better because if I wanted to go add a new stage, all that I would need to do is go to the dependency injection registration portion of this, make sure that I'm adding in my new stage and assigning the right priority. It will automatically get picked up by dependency injection, and then from there, the part that we saw below, when it goes to build the pipeline, it's going to take that in on this parameter here. It will make sure that they're ordered properly. And then when we go back up to execute this pipeline, that step will be taken in automatically in the right spot with respect to the order. So this is starting to get a little bit better. But what you're probably noticing is that this is adding a ton of complexity just to be able to do this kind of thing. Now, in my opinion, when you're building stuff like this, adding some complexity into a framework portion of things might not be so bad as long as you're building a framework that's easy for people to use. If every single time I wanted to build any type of pipeline, I had to go do this much work, that would really suck. But if instead I could build a pipeline framework once and make sure that I can build different types of pipelines with that, it might be worth it to do a little bit of upfront work, build a bit of a complex pipeline framework in the start, and then using it is very simple. Now, unfortunately, at this point in time, everything that I've showed you is still not making it as simple as I want. The big challenge that I'm seeing so far is that when it comes to connecting the pipeline stages, there's a lot of dependency around having really simple pipeline steps. We go from one to the next. And a lot of this comes from the fact that I'm using a loop to try and iterate over the stages and really just feeding in the same output type into the next input type. It means that between stages, we can't change the type. In pipelines that I would like to build, and if you think about using LINQ, for example, a lot of the time what we're able to do from pipeline stage to pipeline stage, right? If you're doing a select and then another select or some other type of transform with LINQ, what you're able to do is have an input to that stage, then you transform it, and that goes into the next step. We're not getting that at all here. So I think that one of the trade-offs that we need to start exploring is that if you want to have your pipeline automatically configured, you're either going to have really complex logic to try and automatically figure out the right pathway, which would come with some risks, right? So how does it know to go from this stage to the next? Or if you want to have automatic configuration, you have to assume that you're going to have really simple pipeline stages, kind of like I was showing in this example. The alternative, of course, is going back to having a manual set up for your pipeline, and perhaps that's really not so bad after all. If you put it behind a factory, if you need to reuse the pipeline a lot, you can essentially go configure your pipeline in one spot. And that means that if you need to reuse it, you can call the factory to go build a new pipeline for you and not necessarily have to worry about 10 different spots in your code to go configure this thing properly. Now, based on how complex this is getting, I'm not totally sure if I'm going to follow up quite yet with doing maybe some type of reflection system that can go look at configuring pipeline steps properly, but that's where my head's at. I think that's probably something like I would do. So you give it a handful of stages for your pipeline, and then it will say, okay, can I figure out how to get the input of one to the output of another? That might be kind of fun to build, but I think there's going to be a lot of headache that follows with that. So I want to wrap up this video, but I hope you found that insightful just to see how you might navigate something like this. It's not a bulletproof solution. It's probably not a solution that you really want to lean into, but it's an option. And I think that if you understand some of the decisions and trade-offs that we're going into something like this, it'll help you form opinions about things you want to build and where it might be good just to cut your losses. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.